In other news of the evening, a Sioux City man will spend the next 5 years in a federal prison after pleading guilty to possessing child pornography. 23-year-old Braden Rogers received that sentence after entering his guilty plea to a single count of possession of child pornography back in March. Prosecutors said over an 11-month period between May of 2020 and April of 2021, Rogers possessed more than 100 videos of children as young as infants being sexually abused, which he then distributed via social media. He was also sentenced to pay a $500 fine and a $5,000 in restitution to his victim.